People have always wondered about the hair transplant which Elon Musk underwent. It's a common question on social media sites like what did Elon Musk undergo, what kind of transplant did he do, how many times he has undergone a hair transplant. In this video, we are going to discuss about the hair transplants of Elon Musk and his hair loss problem, when it started and when it was quite intense and when he planned to undergo a hair transplant. So I'm Dr. Satya Saraswat, routinely making such informative videos for people who want to know more about the ever-expanding field of hair loss and hair transplant. So as we know, Elon Musk was born in 1971 and we have a few of his pictures when he was around 20 years old, that is around 1991, where we could see that he has a very broad forehead and some thinnings on the sides. Just a small, sort of a picture of what is going to happen in the future. And then when we see one of his very common or a famous video when he bought his McLaren in 1999, and this video is available on YouTube, we can see that he has lost a lot of hairs in the front. It almost looks like that he is suffering from Norwood grade 3 male pattern baldness at this point. It is a clear-cut case of androgenetic alopecia or a male pattern baldness, in which when he is around 27-28 years old, it is seen that Elon Musk is having a significant amount of hair loss. When we see his family history, especially from his paternal side, his father Elon Musk also displays a similar kind of hair loss, which also almost looks like a grade 3 male pattern baldness even at an advanced age of his mid-50s or 60s or so. So we know that he has a family history where the baldness goes up to grade 3 even if the family, even when they age out. So with this video which we saw in 1999, we could see that Elon Musk has lost hairs up to here and on the sides and in the frontal tuft also, and there is a significant amount of thinning of hairs in that region. After this, in the years 2002 to 2004, we can see in many pictures and also the videos that he regained his hairs where he had lost it, and this probably was due to a hair transplant, especially a FUT technique, which was the prevalent hair transplant technique in that early 2000s. FUE was just starting to show up and initial reports of FUE came out around 2002 to 2003, although it became a very common procedure after 2010. So he underwent his first hair transplant around 2002, and this was when he was around 31 years of age. Although the details of this exact procedure are not known, but it is widely speculated from the change of his hairs that he has regained hairs in the frontal tuft and the sides, that it is safely presumed that he underwent his first hair transplant there itself. A lot of pictures, including the much famous picture which he had with Jeff Bezos in a restaurant, we can see that his hairline has definitely improved and his hairs, he seemed to have regained a lot of hairs after this first hair transplant. Elon Musk probably underwent a second hair transplant in around 2009 to 2010, and many of his pictures and videos does show even a better improvement after this second hair transplant than his first hair transplant. We can see from various pictures and videos in 2014 that he had a slightly lower hairline than after his first hair transplant, and also we could see that his hairs are looking much more thicker and better than what they were even after the first hair transplant. So after this second hair transplant, we can see that there is a decreased see-through in the frontal area. His density seemed to have improved. His hairline seemed to have slightly lower down by a couple of millimeters, not very abnormal, but still it looks like his hairline has gone down a bit. Third thing which we can notice after his second hair transplant is that the frontotemporal angle have become a bit rounded. So there is definitely the work which has gone on the sides, apart from making this thicker and denser and lowering the hairline a bit. And the last thing which is noticeable after his second hair transplant is that his temple points have strengthened a lot. So this is about his second hair transplant, which he probably underwent around 2009 or 2010. Now let us come to what kind of technique we think that Elon Musk has underwent. There was a video in 2022 by Time in which he was the person of the year. In this video, one of the shots from the side, we could see there were two FUT scars. One was the lower one and one was the upper one. So the interesting thing was that the upper FUT scar is much more visible than the lower FUT scar. So what does it mean? Which means that the first FUT which he underwent was probably on the upper side. The donor side was on the upper side, the scar is on the upper side, and the second hair transplant which he underwent by FUT technique, the scar is on the lower side. Why we can say that? Because in the lower scar we can see a lot of hairs coming out to that scar, and this is typically a trichophytic closure, a technique which was not usually done or not prevalent as a technique of scar closure in FUT in early 2000. This technique developed later on, and initially the scars were wider and hardly any hairs were coming out of that. And so because of this trichophytic closure being performed on the lower scar, we can safely assume that the lower scar is from the second FUT and the upper scar is from the first FUT. In the end, we can safely conclude that he has underwent more than one hair transplant, probably two FUTs, and his hair loss is stabilized for a very long time now, either because of his genetic family history of being a grade 3 male pattern baldness, or he is on the US FDA approved medicines like minoxidil and finasteride to stabilize his hair loss problem. So friend, this is about Elon Musk hair transplant and what we think about it. Do subscribe to our channel if you want to know such interesting facts. We request you to share these useful videos with your friends if you are interested in these kind of video. Thank you very much.